To speed flip left, we're gonna dodge WA. So this is a little more left than that 11 o'clock position, but it's the best we've got on KBM.
And that's why it's impossible on keyboard. Any questions?
Teacher, I can do it on keyboard.
Bro forgot to oil his engine, probably.
Explain yourself, Blimpy.
It is quite a long story. It all begins 10 months ago. Just as I start playing Rocket League, my old keyboard breaks. I can't afford anything fancy, so I settle on this one. The keyboard arrives and it is working well, and then a few weeks go by and I want to learn a speed flip. So I open the Musty's training pack and try to replicate what a random tutorial says. Only the tutorial for some reason doesn't mention all these weird angles that I'm having. Like I am pressing the same exact thing as the guy in the video, but unlike him I always get a different angle. So I just decided that speed flips are for wimps and I will stick to a regular drive kickoff. But then I get another urge to learn a speed flip. Because kickoffs are starting to become my weakness. But I simply can't figure out what exactly is changing the angles. Even input overlay doesn't really help me understand them. I start to fear my keyboard is at fault. And then I notice this. Whenever I have pressed 4 buttons down at the same time, my jump button, which is spacebar, simply doesn't register. Why is that important? Well, because when you're doing a speed flip, you're pressing down quite a lot of buttons at the same time, and the fact that my keyboard couldn't press 5 buttons at the same time probably contributed to those weird angles. A normal person at this point would just buy a new keyboard, but not me. The question now was, would these angles always remain random, no matter what I did? Or was there a pattern, a specific way to press down my keys, and be able to consistently do a perfect speed flip on a keyboard? One of the first things that I find out, this arrow key simply needs to be on your left shift. If it is not, you simply won't be able to get the good angles. It will always give you this minus 64-degree angle. And it is not necessarily the left shift that you need bound, but you need to press that key together with the flip cancel buttons you press. This is how you do it. Slightly turn right, then press W and Q together and jump. Then press Shift, A, S and jump all together. Also, if you don't have jump on your spacebar like I do, and instead have it on your mouse, it's still gonna be possible, because spacebar will be pressed down as you boost. And obviously now the question arises, is it possible to do it consistently enough so that you can use it in games? And the answer that I have found is yes. The more I practice, the more I get used to the timing I need to do. Now, to be honest, I haven't tested this out on any other keyboards that can register only 4 inputs, but I am pretty sure it should be the case for every keyboard like this one. And now I know that many of you will probably be curious if this keyboard has any downsides. I was curious too, so I stole a keyboard from my brother, borrowed, and tested it out. This specific keyboard doesn't have input caps, and naturally I wasn't able to do my usual speed flip. However, all the other controls seemed about the same, the only difference being that the keys felt a bit different. By that I mean it felt different to the touch of my fingers. I figured I should do a 1v1 game and see if there's any difference there. The obvious difference, I can't do speed flips now. I still can't do ground to edge dribbles consistently, so I skipped on that and instead went for my regular flick. To me, it didn't really feel that much better than my other keyboard. I honestly couldn't tell the difference, and my opponent reaffirmed that on this keyboard I didn't have more skills than on my other keyboard. Next up, I failed the wave dash that I do regularly actually on my other keyboard too. Honestly, I have no idea why I get so many toxic opponents, but now determined to win against them, I attempt a speed flip. What? I somehow do a perfect speed flip on this keyboard as well? Anyway, I obviously end up winning the match, but more importantly, I now have to figure out why the hell I can do this on the other keyboard as well. Why is it so complicated to understand this? I now unplug my first keyboard, and I can still do the speed flip! Only it feels harder on this keyboard, and the angles are slightly different. I mean, maybe at this point I'm just that good of a speed flipper, guys. And to truly test out this hypothesis I had, I needed to try it out on a completely different computer. Next up, I started to mess with the settings, and that's when I found it. The true culprit behind all of this: input acceleration time. For some reason I had it on 0.02 this whole time. I have basically played the game with a very slight input lag for 10 months. Simply out of curiosity, I now turned it to 0 and queued a once game. Almost immediately after the game started, my ping skyrockets, to the point where I simply get disconnected from the game after waiting out the 5-minute ban and fixing my internet. I get a rematch with the same guy, but more importantly, the controls. I can definitely feel a difference, and this difference is really throwing me off. All my timing feels wrong, and my car doesn't feel as smooth, but the difference is little, and I can do all of my mechanics. They simply feel a bit off, and I guess that is expected if I put 2000 hours on the 0.02 input delay. Although, if I'm being honest, probably more than 2/3 of that playtime is me just sitting in free play while I edit a video. Either way, for everyone else it will probably feel a little weird the other way around. Is it worth putting that 0.02 input delay to get the speed flips? For me, the answer is yes. For you, you probably need to test it out yourself. All I am saying is there is the option to do it, and there is a way to do perfect speed flips on keyboard. Also, an important note is that every keyboard probably has different angles on different input acceleration times. On my keyboard, the 0.01 acceleration time didn't really work, and on the other keyboard I was having slightly different angles, and it felt like it was harder to do them consistently. But then again, maybe each keyboard just has slightly different timing, I don't know. Also, an important note would be that I control all my car's movement with my left hand on the keyboard, and if you have, for example, jump on your mouse, the timing might get weird, because your jump won't get the input acceleration time, but your car movements will. Like I said, if you are interested in something like this, just test it out for yourself, see if it's worth it for you. And that's the end of the story for how I learned to do a perfect speed flip on a keyboard.
Bro forgot to oil his engine, probably.